That's awesome. Let's talk about, we mentioned this one, the Peter Steele book. When you're writing something like this, this one specifically, did you learn anything about Peter Steele that you didn't know prior to writing the book?
Yeah, yeah, definitely.
Like,
Yeah.
give us some examples.
Well, there's some things I can't even say because I didn't even print them. And that's just going to have to go to my grave because I found out some really crazy shit. And the reason I didn't put that sort of stuff in the book was because to me, it didn't do any service to the art. And that's ultimately what I'm mostly interested in highlighting when I do a book is the music, the art, the aesthetic, the beauty of music. Now with Peter Steele, yes, you have a very deeply tragic personal story and a very mixed up person and a very intelligent and sweet and smart person. I mean, he was, again, we're all complicated, but he was even more complicated,
Yeah.
I think, the thing I learned that I think I knew a little bit about this, but I didn't realize how badly he did not want to go on tour when Bloody Kisses blew up. He just wanted to keep his Park Service job because it was a sure thing. He liked that kind of day-to-day 9 to 5 blue collar work. I can relate. I like physical work. I like to garden. I like to lift heavy things.
You get into that, his opinion about, how he's feeling internally, emotionally about leaving to go do all this work that could grow fruit on the tree or not.
He did.
You wanted some security, and that's about where I am. It's fairly early in the book that you start bleeding that in.
Well, that's when it happened. He did Fallout was his first band as a kid, and then they'd had a 7-inch. So his next experience was Carnivore with 2 albums on Roadrunner. That's when I got into that his music. I love those albums to this day. First Typo Negative album was basically like almost an avant-garde version of Carnivore. And then you talk about progressive, then he just went left field and did Bloody Kisses. And I remember as a fan, when I got that advanced tape, I thought, I love this, but this is going to sink. I didn't think anybody'd get it, and then it went platinum. So that's why I don't do A&R.
When I first heard that, and I may have not, kept my eyes open long enough to realize it was Peter Steele from Carnivore.
Yeah. Why would you?
Yeah.
Why would you?
Right. I wasn't looking for any clues that would lead. Oh, this guy was in a hardcore metal band called it was more like, because I used to listen to, Jack Daniels and pizza and, I shoot my birds away for the reaper. I used to sing that with my friends all the time.
That acapella part. Yeah.
So fun and over the top. Our producer, Jared, producer of the podcast, Jared Tootin, he's the one that turned me on to that record.
Okay.
That Carnivore record.
Yeah. And then so when Bloody Kisses came out, like it was a little bit of a surprise for everyone, I think. And then when it eventually went gold and then, the record label, everybody, the record label and the band were like, shit, wow, this is kind of a surprise, but okay.
Yeah.
There was a decision that had to be made. So he was still pretty young, and this is his 4th full-length album. And suddenly he's going gold. He's the writer of all this stuff. He's pretty much the visionary. And suddenly the band and the label want him to tour. Right. I mean, this is what you got to do. We can take this album and go platinum if we want to. And they did.
Yeah.
The problem was he wanted to keep his day job. He really would have rather done that. He put it to the band and label that I want to be like the Beatles. I want to stop playing live and I just want to record.
Yeah.
I this is why I do. This is to write songs and record. I'm not into because he was it's hard to believe, and he's so complicated that to call him an introvert is a little simplistic. But he didn't love all that attention. He didn't like the fact that his 6'7" frame and just godlike looks and all that brought attention when he walked into the room. He didn't really care for that. I think he dealt with it well. He dealt with it through humor. And he was very, very attentive to people, very sensitive to others in the room. we'll say. But yeah, he didn't want to go on tour. It made him nervous, very, very, very nervous. So here's the crux of the story, and the thing that I learned, again, to give you a very long-winded answer, the thing that I learned was that he turned to alcohol and eventually cocaine just to kind of deal with the nerves that he would get before shows. You know, he's vomiting, he's shitting before shows. He's just like, you know, he's freaking out with nervousness. And, you know, rather than do that crap, he thought, well, you know, this wine kind of works. I'll go with that. Yeah. And then eventually that he got into some coke because, you know, you're around that or you have access to it. And before that, he was never really like a drug guy. In fact, he looked down on people around him that were like, you know, just potheads. And, you know, he had a very different view of drugs before the Bloody Kisses era. I think he always liked prescription drugs, but that's a whole other thing. You know, he had to be medicated for legitimate mental reasons. And then I think those kinds of things came into the story as well. Anyway, I didn't realize sort of the nerves that he had and the lack of desire to actually be the rock god he became.